Well, good evening, Savannah Arts Academy, web design. I am Mr. Holmes Williams, your web design teacher. Hopefully you all are doing well today. I thought I'd come on here and I would help you all out on your final CSS and HTML project that you have been assigned this past couple of class days. I do realize that some of you all may not need this video, but I do know that there are quite a few of you all that could use this video as a resource to help you all kind of manage how to create such an extensive project because this is our most aggressive and our most ambitious project to date when it comes to utilizing CSS and HTML. So I'm going to go ahead and begin. If you're not familiar with what I'm asking you all to do, if we go to Google Classroom, and for those of you who may be listening for whatever reason, who is not a part of the Arts Academy, but just wants to learn, hey, welcome. This is the assignment that I am referring to. So this is an assignment. It combines a lot of the tests and the code and the CSS and the HTML we've been learning over the past couple of units. And so the whole point of this project is to create a website. This website starts off, let's get it. Let's go to the homepage. Where's the homepage? So I've given you all, excuse me, a wireframe of the different pages that you need for this website. You have your homepage or your welcome page, depending on how you view that page on your document. You have a logo up in the top left-hand corner. You have your website name in the middle. And then you have your navigation bar here underneath all of that, one for blog, for gallery, and for a custom page of your choosing, okay? And then on this first page, you are basically creating almost what we've been doing in the past, where you're floating your right and your left, and then you're creating a center. But I'll show you how you can do that more efficiently, maybe. So if I go over here, your first page that links from the homepage is going to be your blog site. And here you're going to be writing two different blogs and you're going to be utilizing columns. So we've learned that columns are pretty simple to implement in CSS. So we'll go through that pretty quickly, hopefully. And then you have a custom page that you can create. Whatever you want is viewer's choice. And then the other one is a gallery. Where's the gallery? The gallery, where you're going to set up a grid-based type of layout for your website to lay out all of your images. So that is the website here. So you are going to be compiling a lot of different code that we have accumulated over the last couple of units. And then you're also going to utilize some new things that we've never done before, like embedding multiple HTML codes into a website, and then being able to stylize them all in different, unique ways. So let's go ahead and begin. If you're not on the Replit train yet, you're going to need the Replit train now, because the Replit train is how we're going to be implementing this website into our final project. So if you're not on Replit.com, you are behind. So Replit.com, for those of you who may or may not know, is a wonderful site, is where you can code online on any type of coding language, but specifically we use HTML, CSS, and of course you can implement JavaScript as well. So Replit.com, pretty easy. You sign in with a Google account and it's free. So I'm going to go ahead and come up here. I'm going to create a new Replit. It's going to load. I'm going to choose my template, which is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And I'm just going to type a CSS / HTML final website. Also name this inside of his head, which is how I am going to market my website. But for right now, we're just gonna create the website. So with Replit, you will begin with your starter code of any HTML document. So you have your doc type HTML, you have your opening HTML and closing HTML tags, you have your opening and closing head tags, and then you have your opening and closing body tags. And they do start you off with the classic coders mantra, which is hello world. I'm just going to, first off, just take these 2 lines of code out. We don't need hello world because we're not going to be using that on our website. And since we're not implementing JavaScript on our website, I think these are just 2 unnecessary lines of code that we do not need to keep on here unless you just really want to keep them or implement them inside your website. So on the left side here, you can see we have our JavaScript. We can honestly delete this, but I'm just going to leave it there. Then you have our CSS. I'm just going to move the CSS a little bit up. Nope, can't do that. Hold on. Isn't that a way you can do that? Oh, I guess it won't let me. That's weird. Anyways, we are CSS, and this is where all the magic is going to happen to help create our website. So first off, the first thing I want to do here is remember that all of your code goes into body, okay? If it has anything to do with being on your actual website, not the stylizing of your website or the background of your website, but like all the content on your website goes in body, okay? So even the header, you think the header would go in head. It doesn't. It goes into body. So for some of you all, I know y'all like to kind of go head first into coding. I like to think of coding in a very structural manner. I always like to kind of set up what I need first in HTML, kind of add in a little bit of content, and then do my styling in CSS iteratively. And I'll show you what I mean by that in a second. But let me go back to this CSS final. There is a document associated with this page as well. It's this right here. It kind of helps you all to figure out what you need to do. So here, across all pages, you're going to have a logo. You're going to have a website name, and you're going to have a navigation bar. And whenever you're done, it should look like this. So it should look like this bit up here, a centered name, logo on the top left-hand corner, and then navigation bar under all that. So I'm just going to take note of this, how this is stylized, and I'm going to try to replicate that here using HTML first. So first off, I want to set up a header element for my header elements, okay? So I'm going to set this up. Then I'm going to set something up for my nav. So I'm just going to set up nav. And remember that nav, header, main, etc. All these are names that you can use as elements to then be able to stylize specific parts of your HTML code using CSS, okay? And they also tell you very descriptively what those parts are. So my header is, of course, at the head of my website. My navigation is the navigation of the website. The footers at the foot of the website. The main is the main content of the website, all that good stuff. So they're very descriptive. They're called semantic tags or semantic elements. We talked about this before. The name of it isn't that big of a deal. Just knowing that these are great tags to use instead of doing what I see some of you all doing, which is build and then with a class equals something. While that is still appropriate and you can still do that, if you want to just kind of cut down on the divs and the classes, this is a lot simpler to do, yeah, I recommend it. So if I go back to my source material, we have a header. So this part of my website up here with my logo and my name, this is going to be my header. This is going to be my nav right here. And then down here, this is going to be my content. And there's a couple different ways you can do this. I will say, the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to attempt to do this using a Flexbox. Since Flexbox, I think, is one of the most seamless and easiest ways to implement a lot of this code on this front page. So if you didn't look up Flexbox's last couple of classes, you might want to try. Let me take out this last header. Let me make sure I put that right there, and then make sure okay. So I'm just going to make one part for my main. Since this website doesn't have a footer, I'm not going to put a footer. So these represent the three different parts of this home page. You have your header, your nav, and then your main part of your website. So first off, we want to put a logo in here. I didn't really think of this that well because I didn't create a logo. So we're just going to have to improvise. And I'm going to find a picture of my face. And since you all just love to use photos of my face, I'm just going to look at my name, Satchel Holmes Williams, done before. And I'm going to use a very popular image of me. Oh, look, this bag. Oh, it looks so pretty. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to save this image of this bag because it's Satchel. I'm just going to say, well, let me not do it as an actual PNG. All right, let me go to the website. Hold on. That's cool. That's cute. Okay. Now I'm going to save image as, and it's not letting me save it as a PNG. So that's one thing you might get into, is that you want to be able to save these images as PNGs or JPEGs. It does not allow me to do so. So I'm just going to look up expensive handbags, because you know what? Or expensive satchel bags. I like that. Because you know what? I am expensive. So I deserve to have an expensive satchel as my logo for a placeholder for the time being. I do feel like a lot of people get stuck on the little things when it comes to website creating, especially in class. You know, so you'd spend like a whole class period or a whole lot of time thinking about you know, what your logo is going to look like, instead of actually trying to figure out, okay, what do I actually want to do with my website? So for some reason, these are not saving as PNGs or JPEGs. I am behooved, and I feel like I'm doing this correctly. I mean, there's no way these are not. Huh, this is very weird. Usually they are all, I'm just trying to see, I'm just trying to use an image. That is weird. So the reason why I'm doing this, and the reason why this isn't as, how do I say this, as sharp and as calculated as videos usually are, is because I want to show you all some of the stumbling blocks that you may encounter while coding, and how this is something that everyone does. You know, I definitely have more experience in coding than a lot of my students that I teach. Some of them, they probably have more than me, honestly, because y'all are amazing. But you know, these are things that you encounter, and you just have to be persistent, and you just have to kind of work through the issues. You can't get bogged down by the issues, you know? Because of course issues are going to occur. Nothing's ever going to be perfect. You're always going to have stumbles along the way, and you just have to learn how to just keep on roll with the punches. You can't be held up by the small things, you know? So showing you this, you know, I'm showing you that I'm having such a big issue with just finding an image. Let me see. Pictures. I'm trying to find them where they're not from, like, let's say, from what is this thing called? What's that thing? The one with the peas. It's a JPEG. Thank you, Jesus. It's a JPEG. Okay, we're gonna say satchel logo. It's a JPEG. Thank you. All right, I found a JPEG, y'all. So we're gonna go over here to my header, and I'm going to use the classic image element to insert this image. So I'm going to do opening bracket image space src equals, I'm going to leave the equals open, and I'm going to close it. So the way that I'm going to insert this image is by actually looking up the code. So you can't see this right now because I'm not showing my entire window, but I am going to open up another window in my current computer. I'm on a Windows computer, so my folder for my files. I'm going to open that up, but you may also be on, let's say, a Mac, and you'll open up Finder. Basically, go to where your documents are, find the logo or the picture that you saved, and then just drag and drop it into the browser. And if you see right here on your screen now, you should be able to see where this sidebar with your files is highlighting, and I have this file over it that I'm just dragging from my files on my computer, and I'm just going to drop it. So I'm going to resize the screen, and now when I click on this, I have an image, a PNG file, if we actually make this a little bit bigger, called satchel logo.png. So instead of me trying to insert, let's say, a link from a website into my website to get a photo or an image, I just drag and drop it into Replit, and Replit serves as its own web hosting server. So it'll save the images that you put in there, so that anytime anyone wants to go to your website, those images aren't trying to be found from the web, but from your actual Replit. So instead of trying to put in www.whatever to call on and retrieve the image, I just put in the image name in a Replit called Satchel. So my own name wrong, I swear. .jpg. So it has to be exactly the way it is here. So the same type, the same everything. Okay, there's an uppercase letter, it has to be uppercase letter, all that good stuff. It has to be exactly the same. And then when I run this, now I have an extremely large image of a really nice handbag. And I'm just going to go on ahead and give this a class just because I'm going to stylize this a little bit later. I'm going to give it the class logo because it's my logo. And I could even, if I wanted to, I could give this actually a ID of logo, since this is the only logo I'm going to have on the website because there's just one logo. So yeah, ID logo. And so here I'm going to go over to my CSS just quickly, just to make sure that this is stylized all in CSS. I'm going to change the width and the height to be not as big as it is. As you can see, it is pretty darn big, and logos usually aren't this big. And the reason why I'm not doing that in the HTML is because I want all styling to be solely in the CSS. So I could put in here in between the image element, I could put width equals, let's say 20%. And that will do the trick. It will make my image 20% its width. It's small, it's cool. But now I've kind of fragmented my styling. And so now this is a piece of code that if I want to restyle, I can't just do it all from the CSS. I have to do it in HTML. So instead of doing it here, I'm just going to do it all in the CSS, which is why I'm giving it a class of logo, so I know exactly what it is. So I'm just going to say hashtag, since IDs are only, there's only one element inside of your code that can be ID. So you can only make one thing the ID of something, whereas with class, you can make multiple things class of whatever. So hashtag logo, and then here I'm going to do with colon and then 20%. And now all of my stylizing code, like the width and the color and everything else in my code, will be purely inside of my CSS. Okay, so that's small, it's cute. So now let's go back over here and let's give it an H1. So let's start an H1 tag. And we're gonna say inside of Mr. HW's, that's my name, head. Because this is a website basically about all the things I think about, because my head is pretty weird, both in its shape, you know, it's kind of lopsided, it looks like a milk dud, but also all the things that kind of flows in and out of it on a daily basis. It's very abstract, let's just say that. So this is a website dedicated to all the thoughts and all the things that just kind of ramble on in there, you know? I'm going to run this, and we encounter one of our first issues right here, and a lot of people have this issue, is that first off, both this image and this text are block text, which means that they all have their own line. So instead of inside of Mr. HW's head being beside this image, it is on a separate line than the image because they both have a block type of display. So one of the ways in which you can conquer this is a way that we learned very early in the CSS unit, or not early, but it's been a minute since we talked about it, called floats. So we can float this image on the left because we want it to be on the left of our inside of his head, in the head. And so what this is going to do is it's going to allow this to kind of have its own imaginary boundaries. And then it will then allow, since it floats, the inside of Mr. HW's head to kind of nestle itself beside it. So when we run this, we can see that, oh, look, so now we have a inside of Mr. HW's head, and it's on the side. Now, of course, there's a couple of things you can do here. We can center this. We can do a whole bunch of stuff here. So right now we are going to keep this like this. I will do one thing, since I do see it already being kind of an issue. Since I did make the width of my logo 20%, you can see how it's 20% of the entire page. So you can see how as the page's width gets longer, that the image gets bigger. Since I don't want this image to move, I'm going to give it a static width, aka I'm just going to give it a pixel-based width so that it doesn't move. So I'm going to give it, let's try out 200 pixels. We're going to run that. All right, that's a little bit too big for my taste, so let's go to 125. That sounds better. Okay, let's give it 100. Wow, these are some big images. Okay, so now it will stay static, okay, because it is not, the percentage will then adjust it according to the percent of the page. So If it's 20% of the width of the page and the width gets bigger, then the image will get bigger. And of course, if the page gets smaller, it will get smaller. But here it is just one whole, just one image. I'm actually going to make this a little bit smaller. I'm going to make it, let's do 70. I'm going to do, yeah, awesome. So that's that. And then what I'm going to do now is that since I have created a header tag, I'm going to have my header being called in CSS, and I'm now going to center, text alone, excuse me, center my code. So now that is going to center inside of his head in the center of the page. So you can see now, no matter where you go, this is going to be in the center. So here, it's going to take a while to load. Hold on. Oh, it's in the center. See, it's cute, right? It's dead in the center. And of course, I can stylize the text, make it cooler, everything else, but this is just the basis of the website. Again, something that I see a lot of people doing is that they get harped on the styling of everything instead of putting down your HTML on the page first, and then just doing little bits of CSS just to get them in the right positioning, and then worrying about the colors and the background and all the theatrics later. You know, my point here is for you to get down the basis of your code first, and then worry about all the frills later. So although I know I don't want it to be a black color, I know I want to change this background, I still want to, you know, move on so that I have time to do those things. Now, once I get my structure, my website going, okay? So now I'm going to continue on with the rest of my code. So that's all I want to do for right now to my head. And that looks pretty darn good to my taste. Everything looks good. So I'm going to go ahead, go back to my index. I'm going to work on my navigation bar now. So as you all know, we do have 3 different links inside of our navigation bar. We have, if I'm going back to the we have a blog site, a gallery site, and a custom page site. So I'm going to create those using links. So the way we add links in HTML, as you all hopefully know, is a space href. So that just means A is a tag, it's a link tag, and then we call the attribute href, and that is how we link to some type of page where when you click these certain text that we attribute to it, it will go. So we're going to close that. That's the opening tag. Then we're going to put the text that you're going to actually click, which in this case is blog. Okay. And we're just going to close it like you normally would. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to work smarter, not harder. And I'm going to sit here and I'm going to copy this down. And then I'm just going to change it from blog to gallery. I'm going to change this last one to, let's say, because you know what, music is something that I absolutely love. So, you know, music. And what I'm going to actually fill in here, since the goal of this project is to actually have your own created blog, gallery, and custom page site, you're going to want to create separate sites for each of these inside of the Replit. And I'll show you that in a second. But for right now, we're just going to let these be. I'm actually going to put placeholders right here. I'm just going to put google.com as placeholders for the link that it goes to, just for right now, because I want to show you all how to create your other pages in a second. So I'm going to run this, and here we have, you know, when we click on it, it goes to google.com. Well, not right now, it doesn't. Let me go to a different page. If I make this, then I go here. Oh, no, I think I have to do. Another thing you do have to remember is that when you do links, I do believe you have to put www dot. I think that may be why the links are not working, is because you do have to put www dot. So when we run this, so now we run this, hold on, take these out so we don't have this in the way. Oh, okay, maybe I need HTTPS then. HTTPS or PS, and then I believe that delete the whole website in its entirety. I think that is it. Again, I'm working the kinks out with you all, so you can see that you're not crazy when things don't work. It could just be the small things, or maybe Replit does not like google.com. Huh, that's weird. Well, the links work. we're gonna ignore this issue again. We don't want to get caught up on an issue. So the links do work, and whenever we link our websites, it will work, I promise you. But for right now, we're just gonna leave it right here. Although I do not like the styling of this. So what I am going to do is I am going to do a couple of things. So first off, this is in the nav tags. So I am going to stylize this nav very quickly to give it a distinctive border, just so that we can see the dimensions of this nav bar in total. So I'm going to give it a border. And I'm going to make it a 5-pixel border. Solid, make it black. You know, nothing too complicated here. I just want to see how this looks. So we can see that this is our border. This is where our navigation ends, its dimensions. And so now we're actually going to do something that I did up top, and I'm going to give these A's, the elements within the nav bar, the class of nav, because these are the links associated with the navigation bar. One thing I do see a lot of people doing, and in theory, it seems really cool when you do it, but people name their classes very obscure names that don't relate to the website. And while they are nice, you know, to have this really cute custom name for the different elements on your website, you want to remember that you're not the only person who has to look at your code, especially when I have to review a code. I don't know what class equals kinky boot taha. You know, I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's the navigation bar. I don't know if that's, you know, your footer, someone was like, oh, class equals Britney Spears is awesome. You know what? She is. But that doesn't at all tell me where that piece of code is being attributed to on your page. So by giving these A's, these links, the class nav, I know just by looking at my CSS, okay, these are the links in my nav bar. It makes sense. Just like here, this code is obviously attributed to my logo because I've given it an ID of logo. There's only one logo on the page. It's very obvious where it is. Same thing here. I've attributed the header, this text align center to the header. There's only one header on a page. Same thing here with the nav. There's only one nav on a page. It's very clear where these different elements are and how they're reacting, which is why if I were to have to go through this website and figure out why is this not working, you will know where everything is, and you won't have to look through the HTML to figure out, okay, where is this line of code? Where is this CSS located? You know, where is this class that I see in CSS being attributed to? So just like anything, when you want to call a specific class and a specific element that class has been attributed to, you do the element, so it's the A element, dot whatever the class is. So the class here is nav. So these are the links or the A's with the class nav, which again makes it very obvious that these are the ones I'm talking about, not the other links that I may or may not have on my page. So remember that, y'all. Please just try to use plain text, make it make sense. It saves you and the people that are trying to help you a world of trouble trying to explain what this class or whatever means, okay? So here, I'm going to do a couple of things. There's a lot of things you can do here. So there's one way you can make this look better. First off, you can do text align center in the nav. And the reason why you do text align center in the nav and not here is because if I take out the text align center in the nav and I put it down here and I attribute it to just the A's, it only text aligns them within their little boxes. Okay, and just to show you what that box looks like, I'm going to copy this little border down here and I'm going to run it. So each one of these A's have their own jurisdictions and the nav has its own jurisdiction. So when you're looking at this, I don't want to center them inside of these small boxes. I want to center it in this big box right here. So I'm not going to put the text align center for these small boxes down here. I'm going to put it up here because I want them to be centered in this big box, which is why when I do text align center, we don't put it to the A's or the links themselves. We put it in the nav that they're contained in, so that then you're centering it in the nav. Okay, so now, there we go. So that's going to be how it is. And it looks kind of wonky right now because of the logo and everything else. Don't worry about that. Again, that was one of those aesthetic things that we can change later. We're going to move on. So I'm going to take off this border. Well, no, I'm going to keep it. So one of the ways in which you can add spacing between the borders or between the A's so that there isn't it isn't crowding like this, is you just add padding. So if you remember padding, this is how you add space in between the borders of your cells or tables, or in this case of the blog, gallery, and the music. So I'm going to add padding to the left and the right. Now, if you remember how we do the shorthand for padding, the first coordinate is the top. So I'm going to make the top 0px because I don't want to add any padding to the top. But the next one is right. So I'm going to add 10 pixels of padding to the right. Also, I don't need this comma, excuse me. And I'm going to add no pixels to the bottom. So the next point is bottom. And then the last point is left. I'm going to add 10 pixels to the left. And what this will do is it will add padding within these boxes so that it gives the look of everything being more spaced out. So when we run this, you can see here how much space has been added. So when we take off the borders, because the borders are kind of thick, 2 C's and a K. But now we can see that it does have that mimicking effect of it being different, which they are. You know, they're each different in their own right. Now, I will also say that I do want to add a little bit more. Run this. So yeah, so there you go. There's padding. Again, we're not going to add anything special to this website quite yet, but we're just following along with the sitemap, or not the sitemap, the wireframe, and then we're going to go back and look at the sheet just to make sure that we've hit everything before we move on to the blog site. And I think that's what we'll do for this point of this video, because this video is probably going to get really long. It's probably going to be within an hour, so I do want to make sure that this is not too long for you all. But yeah, so this is what we have so far. The other way, and I think the better way of doing this part, and honestly this top part as well, is by using a flexbox. So I'm going to show you that really quickly. First off, I want to say I'm not the best flexbox user. Flexboxes are newer to me in my HTML journey, and we should not be ashamed of using resources to help us with our coding. I do encourage that for any coder to always have resources on hand, because we don't know everything. We just don't, you know. And so I do have a couple of resources here that I did give you all, and then you can find on the internet, of course, when you just search Flexboxes on how to set up different Flexboxes. So if you look at this website right here, there are different properties that you can attribute to different parts of your Flexbox. One is for the container that contains the different codes you want to adjust, and one is for the children items. So in this case, it kind of goes back to where I was explaining to you earlier. Where is my, where is that? Did I? Oh, okay, it's this one. How this big old box right here, the nav, has a different jurisdiction than the elements within the nav. So this the A's or the links are in the nav is the big box is containing it. So if we go over here to our Flexbox, you can see that to our container, or the parent for the different properties, or in this case our nav, we have to put this this display called flex. So I'm going to do that quickly. So I'm going to do display flex. So this tells us that this is a flex display. And what I want to do is I want to do this property down here, so I already know what the property is. It is called justify content. And what that does is it justifies the content in different ways, almost like a text align, where it can do the right, the left, the center, but it has more stuff. So here, justify content has flex start, flex end, and center, which is just like what we do with text align. But now we have 3 additional ones. One that I'm looking at right now, which is space around and also space evenly, which basically does what we just did with the padding, but they do it automatically. So instead of me having to remember all these different lines of code, all I have to do is do one line of code, and I have both centered and added padding within in between the elements. So I'm going to do justify dash contents. Let's do that right here. And that is also, if you look at this, this is also being attributed to the parent of the Flex container. So this will also be contributed to the nav. So we have not actually done anything to the a.nav yet, but we will eventually. So So justify content. And the cool thing about Replit is that you can actually see how they bring up. And then I'm going to do space dash evenly. What that does is when we run, the same thing we just did, but now the spacing, it's flexible, or that's why it's called a flexbox. There you go. So it has spaced evenly. You also have another one that's very similar to space evenly, which is space around, just a little bit different. So I'm going to do space around just to show you all how that may look to you. So right now you're looking at space evenly. Now when I run this, you have space around. So just a little bit more room, a little less room at the sides between the two. But still it does the same thing. It has center, it's evenly spaced within the flex container. And yeah, so that was very easy. And that took us 2 lines of code versus, and we didn't even need this. So all we needed really in total was this right here to achieve this entire nav bar with our CSS, with these 3 lines of code and this this piece right here. We didn't even need this. Whereas with the other way, you needed this and this, and that could be confusing to people. So again, I really want you all to try Flexbox again, because Flexbox can really help us simplify a lot of things that we used to have to do very manually in HTML and CSS. Okay. So that is that for right now. So let me go back and look at this. So now we have our main content to deal with. So we have our logo, we have our website name, we have our navigation bar, and now we deal with this content down here. And we have a welcome message and then other things. So I'm going to also use a Flexbox for the main content because again, in my opinion, Flexboxes just do this way better and way easier than trying to do the whole, okay, let's do 3 different divs, let's do a main, let's do a div left, a div right, and then let's float the div left and the div right to the right, and let's make sure they're ordered correctly inside of our code, and let's do the, while that works, and you can figure out how to do that based off what we've done before in class, Flexboxes do this a lot simpler, so I'll show you that. So first off, let's do main, and let's give this a class already, equals home. What this says is that this is the main content on our home page. So I'm giving it the class home. So main content home page, it makes sense. Again, name these things that make sense and that point to its positioning on the page, and that makes sense for your page. So yes, and this is going to become very important when we do the thing I'm going to do after this. Actually, let's go ahead and do that now. Yeah, actually, no, that makes sense to do it right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you all how you're going to actually link the different subsites or web pages within your site to this homepage. Since we do actually have our baseline for our code up here. So all we need really is our header and our logo. So yeah, that's good. The header, logo, and our navigation. So what I'm going to do here is go to our left, go to these 3 ellipses on our index.html page. I'm going to duplicate it. And it's going to create an identical HTML page. And I'm just going to name this blog. Enter. Go down to blog or stay at index, doesn't matter. Duplicate it. Make this gallery. See where this is going? And now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to duplicate and let's make this, in my case, music. In your case, it can be whatever custom page you're making. So now we have 3 identical HTML sites, one for the blog, one for the gallery, and one for the music site. And how do we link this? Well, very similarly to how we link the logo to our web page. We go over here to our href, which is basically like the source here in the image, but this is our href in our A. And we're just going to say for the blog, we're going to do blog.html, just as it is written on the side of our pane. Same thing here with our gallery. So we're going to do gallery.html. And the same thing with our last page for music, we're going to do music.html. Run this. So now when we click on this, okay, I'm telling you, y'all, this thing works. This thing really just doesn't like me right now. I think maybe Replit is having a moment right now, you know. It's been a little bit compressed. and, and she's just been trying to get out of that. So I think she's just, she's trying to recover, and we're messing with her and not allowing her to just kind of feel the emotion. So that's why it's not working, because this definitely works. It definitely works. It so totally works. But yeah, you do blog, that HTML, unless I spelled this thing wrong. I spelled it wrong. I don't think so. Yeah, it just doesn't like this. Not right now, but we're just gonna leave it like that. But okay, so now that we've done that, and this is failed again, I'm convinced I'm doing something wrong. It's a href equals, and then yeah, you do, okay. I'm tweaking, as the little kids would say. Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, I know what I did wrong. This is something you have to be careful with. Is that what we do for one page, I have to do for them all. So I actually needed to create this before so on index.html, I need to change this because that is where this stuff is going to be coming from. But I made these links inside of blog.html. So these links that I put here, they were still using the google.com, which I obviously did not like. So I'm actually going to put the blog.html for blog on the index or our homepage, basically. We're going to do the gallery.html for our gallery, and then going back here, we're going to do our music.html for our music. So you see, again, even I can make these mistakes, and that's totally fine. I don't want y'all to feel bad if you don't get things right away or you're having difficulties. Coding is more than just putting down the code on a sheet and being done with it. It's about being able to troubleshoot and being able to think about logically what may be causing the issues that you're encountering. Okay, so now I'm going to run this again, and I'm going to click on it. You see what happens? Well, for that one, it didn't do it because I knew why I didn't do it, because we didn't change the links for that one. So now we got it. Okay, I'm just gonna do this whole thing, go to the music site and just put this whole thing in instead of me trying to do all this again. So now I'm gonna run it. And just to show you all that I'm actually going to different pages, I'm gonna do music there for the music. For main, I'm gonna do gallery. For blog, I'm gonna do blog. I'm just putting this in the main just so you can see when I change it. So I'm on the home page now. When I click blog, it's blog. When I click gallery, it's gallery. When I click music, it doesn't want to work because for some reason it doesn't want to work. Music, did I put down the wrong thing for music? That is weird. Oh, it's because we didn't do the thing for gallery for some reason. So now blog, gallery, music. Thank you. So we can see here, but now, and this brings up another thing that was brought up inside of the assignment. How in the world do we put a link on this picture? Because if you look back at your assignment, you see that your logo should be custom made. Obviously, I'm going to custom make it later. For right now, we don't have any time. But when clicked, this logo should be led back to your homepage. So when you click the logo, it should lead you back to your homepage. And it also should be positioned in the top left-hand corner of your website across all your web pages. So obviously, we've done the first bit. So the first bit was make sure that's in the top left-hand corner of all your web pages. We go to blog, we go to gallery, it's all positioned the same way. We have no way to go back home, and we're not going to put an actual home link on a navigation bar. I mean, you could, but we don't want to do that because if you look at any modern website, that isn't what they do. They just embed it in the logo. So go to Amazon.com. If I go anywhere, let's just go here. If I click this logo, guess what? It's going to go back to the home page. Go to Apple. Same thing here. If I go to this, you have a superpower or whatever. If I click this Apple logo right here, it's going to light up, which is really cool. It's going to go back to the home page. So I want that to be mimicked on my website too. So we're going to do that, we're going to do that here. So we're going to go back to our website. And so now we're going to embed, or basically create this image as a link. And it's the same process in which you would do so for these. So if you look right here, the anatomy of a link is you have your opening tag, okay, with the, well, you usually don't have a class. I mean, you can have a class, but for right now, you know, ignore the class right here. Actually, I'm just gonna write it up here. You have your A, you have your href equals, and then you link it to something. Then you have your text that you're going to click to then get to that link, and then you have your closing tag. The way you embed a picture with a link is the same way. So here, I'm going to put a link in here. For this one, the link is going to be index HTML. Why? Because index HTML is where our homepage lies. That's where our homepage is going to be. And instead of putting text here, I'm going to simply put the logo or the image that I want to link or want to be clicked to get to the link I embedded in it to go here. So instead of putting text there, I'm actually going to go down here. I'm going to copy this image right here. I'm going to, make it disappear, do a cut, which is Control X or Command X. I'm going to paste that bad boy right there. So when I run this, now if you notice, I did this in that gallery.html, so I actually need to put this code in all the other ones as well. So I'm going to go to music.html, and I'm going to put this here and here. I'm going to blog.html. I'm going to put this here, there. I want to go back, most importantly, to the index.html. I'm going to put this right here. So now, when I run it, when I hover over it, it goes home. So when I go to gallery, I'm at gallery, but now I'm home. Blog, now I'm home. Music, now I'm home. So that is how you embed a link in a photo. And you can do that for just about anything on your page. So I can embed a link here in this photo. I'm pretty sure you can embed links into videos as well. Although I wouldn't recommend that because you do have to click on links to do other things as well. So I wouldn't recommend it, but I mean, you can if you really wanted to. So yeah, that is, that is how you do that. So now we've created basically the basis for every single one of our subsites right here, because this is going to stay consistent amongst all of our websites. So now let's go back to index, and then I go to the next section. Mr. Holmes-Williams, geez, you're talking so much. And to that I say, get all this good learning. Why are you mad? All right. I'm going to go back here to our main, where we last left off, and I'm going to put in different divs, okay? I'm going to do a div with the class equals, I'm just going to say home left. Again, see how descriptive that is? That tells me that this is going to be the thing on the left side of my home page without me having to look at it. Cool. I'm going to create another div within the main called div welcome, or div with the class welcome. I'm going to close that up. Cool. And then I'm going to do another div, but this is going to be class. Come on, say it with me. Class home right. Yes, that makes sense because it's going to be at the right side of my home page. So yeah, we're going to do home right. Dear Lord, have mercy. What cause I get to honest? You can't get it in between. So in this case, we have a parent in the main. This is our parent element. And then we have 3 children, or 3 different elements within this element. We have 3 divs, each with different classes: home left, welcome, and home right. So now I'm going to turn this into a flexi box. If I go back to my guide on how you make things into flex boxes, first we do need to create or make our main with the class home. We need to make that into a display flex. So let's go to our CSS. We're going to keep this a.nav here for the time being. We're going to do main.home because this is going to be main element for the home page. And we're going to make this a what? A display. That's our property, and flex is going to be our value. Cool. So we've just made our display of flex. I'm also going to fill this up with some placeholder text. So each of these is going to do the lorem, and then a tab. When you do that in Replit, it will automatically put in that placeholder text. I don't know what language it is, but it works well for me. So you do lorem, I believe that's how you say it, LOREM, and then you press tab, and then it automatically fills it in with the rest of that placeholder text. So LOREM, tab. So now I have 3 different children inside of this main.home parent element, and each of them has placeholder text. So when I run this, it's going to look a little strange or not, because yeah, it looks like that. It's already in a really nice thing. Wow, this thing really does really do. I mean, all I did was do display flex. Because when I take off display flex, look what happens. It does this. But when I put the display flex, it automatically did what it should have done. It's this. I mean, I don't make this stuff up, y'all. It's so easy to do this. No floating. No trying to work your nerves with all of that stuff, with like changing the margins. Just use Flexbox, y'all. I'm telling y'all, use Flexbox. It's really not that difficult. But yeah, so there's a couple of things that you can do here. You can do flex direction. You can do flex direction row, row reverse column. So right now it's in columns by default, I guess. So if I do flex dash direction, flex dash direction. Okay, why is this not doing what I want to do? Okay, let's do that. And I do column. Well, it's going to stay the same. Oh, is it not? Wait, hold on. That's weird. So the default should be row, but it changed it to column. What about row dash reverse? I'm confused. Okay, so if I just do row, oh, we just reverse them. So this was first, and this one was, but row is this way, and column is, it's a little bit, it's backwards. From left to right, yeah. Columns from top to bottom. Huh, that is weird. Very weird. So different alignments here. This kind of stuff, I am just gonna let you all decide what you do or do not want to do. You can use this to add some gaps in between your rows. So, you know, you can do gap 10x, 30px, etc. You can do a whole bunch of different things. You can do row gap, column gap. So for here, apparently this is row. I'm just gonna go with it for right now. I'm gonna do row dash gap. And I'm gonna do, let's say 30px. And that should add a gap between the rows, but it doesn't. Now let me do column gap. See, that makes no sense because this gap applies. So it says that the flex direction is a row, but the column gap is, it's supposed to be a column. Yeah, it's definitely a column. That is weird. Yes, because that attributes to it. So yeah, that's how you add spacing between them. That is weird. I'd have to, that's weird. But anyways, you can see how you can do that. So of course, since these are all in different divs, you can then put your content in the middle. You're welcome. So, I can be like, okay, welcome to inside of Mr. H.W.'s head. Full life, love, and blood. Because heads have blood in it. Maybe you realize that, in fact, is human. Emotions, feelings, just like you. So that's my middle one, of course, because I named it welcome. So that's my welcome. Cool. I can stylize that, of course. But here I'm going to take out this gap, at least not such an aggressive gap. I'm going to do 10 for the column gap. And this flex direction thing here, well, we're going to figure that out like some other time. The other thing I want to show you all that I like particularly of this is that you can change the flex grow, which basically says how big or small an element is compared to the other flexes inside of it. So this is actually a property that you apply to the children element. So I'm not going to apply this to my main.home. I'm just going to apply it to the different divs I have. So yeah, so let me, yeah. So I'm going to apply a flex grow to my div dot welcome because I want this to be bigger than my other divs. So I'm going to apply a flex grow, and I hope this works because sometimes this can be very finicky as well. Of 3. Now, let me make sure before I run this. I hope I'm doing this correctly. So if we look right here, this defines the ability for a flex item to grow if necessary. It accepts a unitless value that serves as a proportion. It dictates what the amount. If all items have flex grow set to 1, then the remaining space in the 10 will be distributed equally to all children. If one of the children has a flex value of 2, then that child will take up twice more spaces. Yeah. So if I'm applying flex grow of 3, or let's just do 2 for right now. Oh no, let's do 3 because it shows better. To my welcome, this middle part right here, it should theoretically take up twice as much space or 3 times as much space as the other ones. So I'm gonna run it. So nothing happened. Let's yeah, so sometimes this does work a little bit finicky because I'm sitting here like, okay, that's what they want me to do, right? So it's flex dash grow, okay. So, and then also maybe I need to give the other ones a property too. So I'm going to do div.home. Give this one 1. And give this one a flex grow. Now when I run this, so again, I'm showing you this raw and in person because I want you all to see how not everything will work out in your favor, and now you have to figure out why it's not working. So why isn't this working? First, why working this work? That works. That works. So if I'm looking back at my code, these divs are all closed. So that's one thing I do whenever I look at the code, is I look at your HTML, because the HTML, again, is the structured website. So if the structure isn't well, then the CSS is obviously not going to do well. either. So you have to make sure that your HTML looks good and then worry about, okay, what am I doing with the CSS? So here I have a main opening tag with the class home. I have a closing main, as you can see, it highlights. So we have an opening and closing. And then I have a div here, corresponds, that's one div, two div, three div, closing, 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 opening, opening, opening. So my code, it looks flawless in my HTML. So then now I have to go back to my CSS and figure out, so what is wrong with my CSS? Is there something wrong with it? So let me change this to column. Because I just really feel like this is wrong. I don't know why this is showing up the way it does. It's just, yeah, that's weird. Wow. So in essence, I wonder why this isn't working. Because even the order thing does change. So if I do, when I welcome, I do the order, and I make this 3. And then I make my home left, I make the order of it 2. I make the order of let's go right 1. And I run this. You can see how the order of it has changed. So now my welcome is the 3rd. And of course, you don't know which one of these are which, but you can tell just by the welcome moving from the 2nd place spot to the 3rd place spot that this code works. So it's not like I've called this code incorrectly, So if I even go as far as to put left here and then put for my right, just so that, right, you can see that when we go to our code for our CSS, the right is 1, that's 1, the left is 2, that's 2, and the welcome is 3, that's 3. So the code itself is working. Like this HTML or not, CSS is written correctly, because if it wasn't written correctly, then guess what? This wouldn't work. So there's something wrong with this. This just is not taking. Let's go. Does this have to be applied to all numbers? I have to figure out what it is. Let me search how to make flex work. So you have syntax, text, phone number. So this is obviously the biggest one here. So then, okay. So with this result, well, it's the code. Or the CSS. You can see here, yeah, that the 3rd one has a flex scroll of 2. So each of the flex items have flex scrolls. Yeah. So you have the inner list. There's a flex item, flex item, flex item, flex item. And so then you just attribute each one to each one. Yeah. That is weird. I will come back to y'all with this because this, oh, yeah, it should work. And again, for the code isn't working. So maybe it's a precursor to what it's supposed to be. All right, so okay, so this flex code doesn't work. Okay. First, you can apply a fixed width and a flex scroll. Secondly, flex scroll only works if the parent only has display flex. In this case, the section has display flex, but the links do not, and the flex scroll divs are chosen the link, not the section. So should I apply display flex for each of these? Or what you're actually going for, right? Next to us, so it's not the same. If you want to present position is not flexible. No, the parent section has display flash, which means if the link is supposed to be, they are the ones who have to have the scroll value. In this case, flex one, so it's a shorthand. But as I said, flex scroll, if you want the portions are always the same, you only use flex scroll information. No, I moved the text. Okay. Maybe I just use flex one. Maybe flex. I've also seen this where if you just do the shorthand, it does it. But if you do the not shorthand, it does. I'll do flex like that. Okay, that doesn't make any sense. So flex hyphen grow doesn't do it with the shorthand for flex does. That is weird. Okay. Ignore that. So as you can see here, this part will always be twice as big as this other part. So obviously there's other things you could do. You can change the justification of each of them. So if I wanted to make these, let's go back to Flexbox. If I wanted to make these be centered, I could make them centered by centered horizontally, not vertically, because this right here is being centered vertically. I want to be centered horizontally. So I'm going to justify the content and be centered. Not centered. I want to be centered within their boxes. I don't want to be set like that. So I'm going to make them centered within their boxes. What I just, I guess I just do text align, right? Center. So I just do text with them. Yes, that does work. So just do text align center. Okay. Yeah. It's these things that you learn over time. And with you just being able to go, okay, what am I doing wrong here? How can I fix it? All that good stuff. So yeah, I'm glad I did this with you all. But this is how I would tackle the first page. And then if you wanted to add borders and whatnot, you could. So I could add a border down here. So I'm just gonna take my border from up here, from my nav. I'm going to write it out again because I just, instead of copying, I pasted, I add something pasted. I'm gonna make this 2 pixels. Less bulky. Black is cool. This versus this. Oh, versus this. Other than the, I mean, obviously I could make the logo and everything have a thing around it, but I don't think that's necessary. This is the basic format. And if you look at my code, this isn't that much code at all. I didn't even need this. So if I take that out, that's this much CSS. And then there's this much of this. So that's all we want to show you all. Let me stop sharing. Is that If we're taking it iteratively, you can't get caught up on the little things. You really can't. And that you should ask for help. It's never ever a bad thing to look up, do a little cute Google search, and actually read the results. Don't just, glance at it, say, I don't find out the answer, then keep on going. You have to read things and you have to be able to actually comprehend them. And then you'll be a very successful coder and a very successful problem solver in your life. So this is Mr. Holmes Williams. Yes, I am a little tired, but it's good to have been able to start this up with you all. And I cannot wait to see the final products that y'all create for the class. Thank you so very much and have a wonderful rest of your day. Peace.